Good morning. I see that it is 9 a.m. the time for this hearing. I'm just admitting Zach Schwartz.
Zach Schwartz is a county employee who's observing.
Okay. So again, I see that it is 9 o'clock, the time set for our hearing this morning. Is the respondent present?
No.
Okay, I'm going to, as a matter of courtesy, just give a couple more minutes here to see if the respondent reports. I also see that we are recording, and I'll allow that recording to run while we wait a couple more minutes here.
Okay.
Mr. Stento, are you prepared to start?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I'm noting that it is 9:05 a.m. Today is March 2nd, 2022. This is the zoning violation hearing on zoning violation citation PZC 21-0026, County of Coconino versus Strong Salazar, taking place by Zoom and Thomas Auditorium, Department of Community Development, held pursuant to Coconino County Zoning Ordinance 5.14. I note that the county is present through its zoning inspector, Mark Stento. The respondent is not present either by Zoom or in person at Thomas Auditorium. Is that your understanding as well, Mr. Stento?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay, I am in receipt of the county's exhibits 1 through 8, which I will deem admitted for purposes of my review. I am not in receipt of any exhibits or a witness list from the respondent. As such, any evidence that would have been introduced by a respondent or would have been attempted to be introduced by a respondent would be denied admission. Additionally, I'm not in receipt of the respondent's admission or denial of responsibility, which was required to be submitted within 15 days of service of the citation, which I believe occurred on January 24, 2022. And therefore, because that was not submitted, the citation is deemed admitted by default. Additionally, the respondent has failed to appear at today's hearing. I will take some evidence to make sure that the citation was served, notice of hearing was served properly, but assuming that they were, the respondent's failure to appear means that I'm required to enter a finding of responsibility against the respondent and impose a penalty pursuant to the zoning ordinance. And that is pursuant to zoning ordinance 5.14 C2D5. So Mr. Stento, as I said, and just to explain that in a little more detail, because I didn't receive an admission of denial, an admission or denial from the respondent, the citation is just deemed to be true. Moreover, because the respondent has not appeared for the hearing today, the consequence of that is that I'm required to find that Coconino County is correct on this matter and that the respondent is responsible for the violation. We would then skip to the step of imposing a penalty. What is the penalty that the county is seeking here?
As far as monetary values go per penalty, we don't have a specific value. So the maximum pursuant to the zoning ordinance is $750 per residential violation per day. We'd like to assign a penalty on a per vehicle basis for the abandoned and inoperable vehicles. At this time, the unlawful occupancy of the dwelling at the location is at least temporarily ceased. We do not intend to seek a penalty for occupancy of the dwelling, as again appears to have ceased. However, we would like language included in adjudication that specifically prohibits or allows the opportunity for penalties if that occupancy were to continue. And we would like to assign a penalty for the storage and screening standards, the trash and the junk as a whole around the property, and consider it a single violation. So we know we have, let's see.
So Mr. Stento, sorry to interrupt you. And it's difficult to hear you, unfortunately. Were you saying that the issue of the storage and or occupancy of the recreational vehicle has been cured?
So the RV that was occupied unlawfully, the occupation of that RV has ceased. Now the existence or the fact that the RV is still there represents a violation. It's inoperable or unregistered.
Okay, I got it.
So the vehicle itself is in violation. However, the separate unlawful unoccupancy.
Okay, what if I put you down, huh? Maybe you're down.
Mr. Stento, hold on. Someone else has just joined the Zoom. A. Lumpkin.
Yeah, I believe that is Deputy County Attorney Aaron Lumpkin.
Oh, okay. Is Mr. Lumpkin, you're on mute. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, Mr. Lumpkin, the hearing has commenced. Respondent is not present. What's your role here today?
The county attorney's office role here today is just to observe and be able to provide feedback for my clients at a later time.
Okay, great. So just to bring you up to speed, Mr. Lumpkin, respondent did not appear. Moreover, respondent never submitted their statement of admission or denial. And so therefore the citation is deemed admitted. And in any event, because of the failure to appear, I'm required to enter a finding of responsibility against the respondent. So what I still need though is I would like some sworn testimony to make sure that the notice to appear was served correctly. And then I also just need information on penalty, what the county is seeking for a penalty. And so I'm just querying Mr. Stento about the penalty issue, but I think I'll put him under oath here in a minute, just get some information from him so that I know how to fashion a remedy.
Very well, thank you.
Okay. So Mr. Stento, what you were saying was that the occupation of the RV has ceased, but the presence of the RV on the property is still an ongoing violation. Is that right?
That's correct. And our concern is the occupation of the RV has ceased for intermittent periods over the course of our investigation. So while cessation has occurred in the short term, it's very plausible that RV could be occupied again in the near future.
Okay. I have a rough idea of.
The occupant seems to come and go.
Okay.
The remaining violations consist, as I noted in my exhibits, of storage and screening standards violations and inoperable vehicles. The property is littered with stuff, for lack of a better way to put it, junk, some trash, tires, appliances, etc. As I was noting, the storage and screening standards violations for what we're going to refer to pursuant to the zoning ordinance as secondhand materials, I would like to constitute a single violation. Simply because it would be ridiculous to break it down into single items.
Okay.
There are so many.
Well, Mr. Stento, here's what we'll do, because all of the violations themselves are deemed admitted. You know, you win on that, so you don't have to go into detail on what's there or what's not there. But what I'll do is I'm going to put you under oath. I'm just going to ask you a couple questions, just so I feel comfortable that the notice of the hearing was served correctly, and then you can tell me just exactly what you're seeking for damages, because if you get that $750 per day, I need to know how much that has added up to. So you're going to need to provide me with that information so that I can do the calculation. So why don't you go ahead and raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. Mr. Stento, let me just ask you, I see in your exhibit book that there's exhibit 3 is the zoning violation citation, and exhibit 4 is the notice to appear. Exhibit 4A is an affidavit stating that the citation and notice to appear were served. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And is that your signature on exhibit 4A, the affidavit?
That is correct.
Okay, and so you actually served the citation and notice to appear?
I did, that's correct.
And you left them with a Rose Drumgoole, is that right?
That's correct.
What's your understanding of who Rose Drumgoole is?
Rose Drumgoole was the RV occupant we had numerous interactions with on site. Sean Strong, the respondent, would bounce around to other various properties. I was not able to catch her on site. I was able to speak with her over the phone numerous times. She confirmed verbally on the phone with me during one of those calls that Rose Drumgoole was an acceptable person to serve in lieu of her. She stated it explicitly in that conversation. The previous notices that have been served to Rose Drumgoole pursuant to the timeline included in the exhibits were confirmed to have been provided to Sean Strong via Rose Drumgoole.
Okay, yeah, I see in your timeline, which is exhibit 7, that you asked if Rose could deliver the citation packet to Sean, and she stated yes, she could. Okay. How old would you say Rose is?
Mid-50s.
Okay. And when you served her, do you have any reason to believe that she was under the influence of alcohol or drugs?
No, at no point did I serve did I feel she was under the influence.
Did she appear to have any limitations that would prevent her from forwarding the information on to the respondent?
Not to my knowledge.
Did she seem to understand what the documents were?
She did, and she did explicitly state she would provide them to Sean.
Okay. So with that, Mr. Stento, so again, county has prevailed in this case by default. The citation is deemed admitted. I just need some information from you regarding what the county is seeking as a remedy. So assuming that you get the full penalty of $750 per day per violation, what are we looking at for a full penalty?
Well, I'm not seeking the full value. Is it possible for us to impose a 30-day time frame from now before after adjudication before citation begins?
Yeah, we can do that. So you want to give him a little grace period to get things resolved?
Well, the county's ultimate goal is to get the property cleaned up. My perception of Sean is that she struggles financially. My guess is that if heavy fines are imposed, they will be delinquent.
Okay.
The adjudication of the case in support of citation, so we can move directly to that in a fairly prompt manner after a slight grace period. Might allow us some time to see if we can get her moving on some of those vehicles and some of that stuff out of there. We want to get the property cleaned up. If obviously Rose is delinquent on those citations, the county can potentially pursue additional action up to and including a lien on the property. Then of course it will be the county's property or a problem potentially to abate pursuant to our abatement ordinance. That won't necessarily expedite cleaning up the property either. So I would like to, if I can, give a little bit of additional time there and then have the capability to prepare a recommended citations. And then at that stage, I could provide a quantity that we would like to cite for.
Okay, so what I can do under the zoning code is we can set a time frame for compliance, and then the citation and hearing will be considered left open for that time frame to see if there's complete compliance reached. And then I think what I heard you say, again, it's just difficult to hear you in that room, is what I think I heard you say is that you will submit something to me with a calculation of what the damages are, assuming that there is not full compliance.
Yes, sir, that's correct. So again, assuming adjudication in support of my proposal, we would start visiting the property on a regular basis. We would continue to work to communicate with the respondent, and then start essentially a checklist of ongoing violations that we would associate fines with. At the end of that period, we would have a specific quantity available to you.
I don't have any problem doing that, but this case has been going on for so long. What makes you think that you're going to get compliance in the next 30 days?
I want to provide the respondent with every possible opportunity to do that. If I can get her on the phone, maybe I can get her to move a vehicle or two and start moving. I'm not optimistic. I do not think that will be the case. I do not think it'll be successful.
And you're talking about dealing with Rose.
No, Rose, we have not been able to find on the property for the last month.
Okay, so when you say she, who are you talking about?
I'm referring to the respondent, to Sean Strong.
Oh, okay. Is Sean a woman?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, well, so you want things left open for 30 days?
If that's viable, potentially, yes.
Okay, yeah, that's my understanding of the zoning code, that I do have that ability to do that. So what I'll do is I'll issue a written determination. It'll lay out that respondent didn't show, therefore you prevailed by default, etc. And indicating a compliance timeline of 30 days. And that why don't you plan on submitting information to me on damages before the expiration of those 30 days?
Certainly.
And then I think, let me just look at the zoning code here for a second. I think what happens is, if we do it that way, we have what's called a recall hearing. Yeah, what'll end up happening is that we'll have another hearing at which you'll testify whether or not there's been compliance.
Okay.
And then presuming there's not, we'll issue an order at that point with presumably with financial penalties.
Okay.
Okay. All right, anything else?
Not on the county's end, no.
Okay, Mr. Lumpkin, do you need to confer with Mr. Stento or anything off the record or out of my hearing or anything like that?
No, I do not.
Okay. All right, well, with that, I will bring the hearing to a close, and I'll hope to write up a determination today and get it circulated. And I think that's all I need for today. So we will go off the record. And Ms. Hernandez, are you able to store the recording of this Zoom meeting?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'll be in touch with you about that as well. So, all right, well, I appreciate everyone's time and involvement this morning, and we'll now go off the record. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.